I'm making a retro-inspired horror game on Unreal 5 called The Revanches. Last time I added this super satisfying shotgun to shoot things with. Now, I'm gonna give you something to shoot. Question is, even with the retro graphics, can I still make it scary? Let's have a look. But first things first, still gotta finish that inventory screen. First thing I did is put together this quick test level to capture the icons for the items. I decided early on to separate the item from the background, so I put them in front of a blue screen, ran them through Photoshop, and this is how they turned out. Since the item is separate from the background image, it makes it really easy for me to make different versions, such as for selecting the item. Since I already had the inventory system programmed in, all I had to do here is give it a UI. Given I had no idea what I'm doing and don't like using tutorials, it was easier said than done, but it's really boring, so let's just say after a day of grinding away at this is where I was at.
Wow!
It's pretty slapped together, but it works. Didn't want to spend too much time making it pretty right now since I might end up changing things later and I don't want to be too committed to any one aspect of it. Being said, there's one more feature I want to add before moving on. I've always loved the examine screen in old school Resident Evil. It's really neat to be able to look up close at all your items and get a little bit of info on them, but it also opens up some gameplay possibilities as well that I'd love to take advantage of. Good news is I already have a vague idea of how to accomplish this, as I've already implemented a very basic examine screen on a previous version of this game. So the way I've done this probably isn't the best, but it works, so whatever. The way it works is the entire setup, the background, lights, camera, and the object you're looking at are actually technically just another player character. When you open the screen, it just spawns this new character way up in the air above the level, switches your controls to that. Here's a very early test. There's still some functionality I want to add, like combining items, but I'll circle back around to that a little bit later. At this point, I made a decision. I was going to migrate the project from Unreal 5.2 to 5.5, since it had some features that are really going to help me put this all together. Didn't go as smooth as I hoped.
What the fuck? What the fuck was that?
So I made some tweaks.
Bruh.
Huh?
Things got worse before they got better.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck this is either.
One hour later.
So eventually I got it working, and then I cleaned up the final image a lot over the previous build. Now, it's time to add something to shoot. Thank God coding AI is famously simple, easy, and I have plenty of experience putting this sort of thing. Yeah, no. Once again, I had to go look up some tutorials. I start by grabbing this placeholder enemy I made for the previous version of this game, long since abandoned. I threw it in Mixamo for some temporary animations. Then I started off simple, made a basic enemy that'll stand there until it sees you, then start walking towards you. Well, that's all well and good for a classic zombie or something. I'm trying for something a bit more dynamic. I quickly got ahead of myself, tried to make this enemy that'll stalk the player around the map once it sees them, using Unreal's environment query system to find hiding spots out of the player's line of sight, then lunge at them if they get too close or stared at it for too long. Sometimes it gave some great results, like this moment here. This actually scared me a bit. I was not expecting him to be in that room, and I kind of forgot about him. I love the unpredictability here. It feels like being locked in with a wild animal. You just never really know what it's going to do, and I really want to circle back to this, but I simply don't have the skill to properly pull it off right now. For every great moment in testing, there was 3 more like this. For now, I'd focus back in on the fundamentals, but not before one last distraction. In old survival horror, your movement options are usually limited. You can run forwards, but moving backwards is slow, and strafing, on the occasion it's actually possible, is also very slow and clunky. I wanted to implement something like this. It makes combat and avoiding enemies a lot more deliberate. You can't just run backwards while firing pot shots, and if you're trying to avoid enemies, you need to plan out a smooth route around them. It just adds a lot more depth to the gameplay. Now back to the enemy. For now, I went back and refined a simple enemy. It'll roam around a selected area until it sees the player, and then it attacks when you spot it. One last problem: nothing happens when you shoot it. We're gonna fix that now. First thing I did, put together a quick particle system for the splatter. Yeah, kinda sucks, but in the context of the low-res retro graphics, it's fine, so I'll leave it be for now. Then I made the enemy stagger when it gets shot, automatically start combat even if it didn't see you before. Finally, I made the enemy die when it's out of health, as you do. But before I show you that, there's one more thing I want to talk about. Sound. Sound is super important for horror, and until now, the Revanche just has basically had none. I've added some simple sound effects for movement and the environment, but most of these are just still placeholders for now. One thing I do have to properly implement. One of these days, I'm going to learn how to talk. One thing I've got properly implemented for now is the footsteps. So the sounds are based on the speed of the player's movement and what kind of ground you're walking on. Every time the game makes a footstep, it'll run a line trace down to the ground to see what kind of material it is, concrete, wood, etc., to give context-sensitive footstep sounds. And they even generate noise that the enemies can hear. Ooh. Lastly, I'm going to talk quick about the music. I really want some custom music for the game, and while I do know some people who actually make music, you might be able to tell by now I really prefer doing things myself as much as possible. I don't have a musical bone in me, but I'm trying to go for more of an off-putting ambience vibe to my music anyways, so I'm really trying to put together my own soundtrack. If you've seen my previous video, you've heard a couple of the tracks that I've thrown together so far. As with many things so far, it kinda sucks, but I'm trying to chip away at it and get better and eventually put together some pretty solid tracks for the game. Ideally, hopefully, we'll see. So I'm going to show you a quick vertical slice of what I got so far. So I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who's been watching these videos. I really appreciate all of the support and feedback that I've been getting. I apologize, I'm not very active in the comment section. I read every comment I get, I'm just not good at replying to things. So if you like what you're seeing, feel free to subscribe, and if you have any thoughts on the project as you're seeing it so far, don't hesitate to let me know. I love getting feedback, and I want to hear what people have to say about it. I also know that I haven't really talked at all about the lore, the story, what's going on here. Believe me, there is a story to it, and I would love to talk about that. I don't want to spoil anything quite yet. You can start finding out a little bit more about that as we go. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic day.